Hi everybody, it's Mount Sofa, and today is the start of my new channel. Yay! Alright, so here's what we're gonna do. I wanted to kind of talk to you about, because this channel is about adventuring. I want to become a great adventurer. And I think the best way for me to do that is going to be by going on adventures. I know that really doesn't make much sense. But we're gonna try our best with it. You know, there's all kinds of adventures that I want to go on that are all over the world. I think right now the adventures that appeal to me the most are like camping and hiking and mountain biking, but like one day I want to get into sailing and mountaineering and all of those kinds of things. I'll just spin the globe a little bit here. Woo! Oh, too fast! Too fast! Okay. That's enough globe spinning for now. Let's put everybody back to north. So I have a map. One of the easiest ways to kind of, I don't know, get started on adventures that I think is just to, you know, put a map together and go for it. So let me show you let me show you the map of all of the places that I've visited so far. Here's places that I've visited so far. This is called Onyx Backcountry. And this is kind of what I use to document places that I've been, and there's a lot of places to go to, I guess. So to kind of explain it from the start, first I have all of these black dots, and all of these each one is a national park. This is all 63 of the American national parks. You know, all over, but this isn't counting like national monuments or historic sites. This is just the 63 national parks. We've got the continental 48 parks here. There's, I think, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yay, I can count. There are 8 national parks in Alaska that all look absolutely beautiful to go visit. And then there's 3 parks in the Pacific. Oh boy, I can't even begin to pronounce this. Halakala, I think, National Park, the Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. So those are both on the islands. And then somewhere out here is American Samoa National Park, which I guess counts as some of the smaller islands. I haven't looked up like how you would actually visit somewhere to get a stamp for it. You may be able to just get a stamp for it at like Hawaii National Park. I don't know. I'll have to look that one up later. And then all the way over here, we have the Virgin Islands, which is also a national park. So those are places that'll be later trips. Definitely not going to all of those spots right away, but I certainly want to one day. Now, I guess let me turn off all of the... Oh, that is not what I wanted to do at all. But that is funny. Now I have to go do some folder management. So my content with you all. Where did that go? It was in Texas national sites, wasn't it? Yeah. Then I added the Virgin Islands, which is not in Texas. So we will remove that from this folder. And now we'll go to my content. Hide folder on map. Hide folder on map. And the rest of these should be the state parks. And what are these? Are these, these are like... Oh, these are markers for, some of the, like, local camping trip spots and stuff. Wait, let me... There we go. Hide these things. Okay, now only the national park should be filling out. Except the ones in Texas. Oh no. There. If we turn on Texas national fights, they'll be back. So there are 2 national parks that are in Texas, and it is Big Bend National Park all the way down here, and it is massive and beautiful, and I have been there before. Let's turn on the satellite imagery, and we can go 3D, and let's see if it kind of displays. Yeah. So here's what Big Bend looks like, and it is unbelievably gorgeous. This is the Chisos Basin right here. I was here. I was out here in March. I got to go out in March and see all of this. And it was incredibly beautiful, and I climbed Emery Peak up here and camped all. I camped a little bit further away from the park, but hiked Emery Peak, hiked the window, saw Cattail Falls. Oh, that is just so unbelievably beautiful scenery. Very fun trip. So I've been there before. And the only other national park I've been to before is way down here in the Florida Everglades. I went here when I was younger. So it's certainly been a long time, but I do have my stamp. I do have my stamp from it. And, in my national parks passport. So, you know, that's kind of a long-term goal, is to one day go see all of the national parks and to go and, you know, to fill out the national parks passport book. You know, I think that would be something really special to be able to totally put together. So that's kind of my goal. And I'm about to go to a couple of other parks on a trip coming up this year. I'm going to the other national park in Texas, the Guadalupe Mountains. This is the Guadalupe Mountains all the way out here, just north of Big Bend. And this is actually the highest mountain range in Texas. And I'll be camping in the park this time at Iron Springs. And climbing Guadalupe Peak and some of the other peaks that are around the area. And I think that is gonna be a super fun trip. But that's not the only piece, since I'm driving all the way out here and I'm taking a long time off. There's gonna be a couple of things that I can go and see, and one of that is going to be over here. The Carlsbad Caverns. So these two national parks are kind of connected to each other, Guadalupe Peak and Carlsbad. And they share a border across the Texas-New Mexico line. There's Texas, there's New Mexico, here's Carlsbad. And if you're really cool, you can hike from the Guadalupe Mountains all the way over to Carlsbad, and that would be super neat. So, I'll be camping in the Guadalupe Mountains, but I'll just take a 1 or 2 day trip to Carlsbad to go hike through that area and see the canyons, whatever's available. I know I saw on their website that a lot of the canyon tours are kind of closed from a lack of staffing. Boy, isn't that just gorgeous. But I think the self-guided tours are still available, and we'll see what it looks like, you know, whenever I get there. But man, that is just unbelievably beautiful. And then that's not all, because this trip is a bit more of a triangle than a flat line. And New Mexico also has White Sands National Park, which is a bunch of sand dunes out in the middle of New Mexico. And that is gonna be something to see. So, still camping from Guadalupe Mountains, I'll take 1 day to drive out here and go see the sand dunes. And then all of this area right here is used for missile testing. So you kinda gotta be careful about your trip to White Sands that you don't go on a test day. Yeah, there's the White Sands missile range, so maybe I'll get to see some cool missiles going off. But also just playing in the sand dunes will be super fun. And so that's kind of a neat thing that you can do, is you can really get 3 different parks all together in one trip. And that can be really fun. Let's see if there's any good images of White Sands. Is the entering boardwalk. Oh, wow. And there's, yeah, the view from the dams, and then there's the lake that's out there. It's very pretty, looking back towards the mountains. Very pretty out there. It'll be a fun one to go see. Let's see what they have for pictures for Guadalupe Mountains. We'll pick the Guadalupe Peak Trail. I'm sure there's some pictures that have been uploaded. Oh wow. So this looks a lot more similar to the kind of hiking that I did in Big Bend. Very nice. So this is something that you can do, you know, on X Backcountry is just the login site, and you can upload your own photos to it. And that is kind of cool. Guess my background music stopped working, which is kind of interesting. Don't know why. But I'll just put a pause on that and not even worry about it. I'm still learning kind of how to do the whole streaming thing. And YouTube and... Well, yeah, that's a trip that I have coming up that I'll be able to film and show you guys. And a lot of small camping trips that I'll be doing in preparation for this big one. Which is super exciting. And let's see. And so there's a lot of other parks that are... That's it. So that's it for the 2 parks that are in New Mexico. So I've seen both of them. And then over here we have Saguaro National Park, Petrified Forest, and the Grand Canyon in Arizona. Very lovely. This is another kind of park triangle that I think a lot of people will go do. You can go Grand Canyon, Zion, and Bryce Canyon. You know, within a relatively similar distance from each other, and it looks like there's a big old fire out in Bryce Canyon. Which is interesting. I hope that doesn't turn into anything too big. This is kind of cool because this app will tell you about fire stuff that's going on. And then, what else is in Utah? Capitol Reefs, Canyonlands, Arches National Park. Oh, very beautiful places to go see. All on the list. And then in Colorado, Mesa Verde, Black Canyon of the Gunnison, the Great Sand Dunes, not to be confused with White Sands, but it's a different Sands National Park. And then, of course, Rocky Mountain National Park, everybody's favorite. Lots of places to get involved in some mountain climbing. You can go get into some 14ers out in Colorado and I think in Utah also. But for sure in Colorado, if I ever want to start practicing, you know, bigger elevation climbs. Because I think that's something that's on the list. And I can do, you know, you kind of start with your 14ers and build your way up in elevation, and then one of the more famous continental mountain climbs will be Mount Rainier, which is on the list. Mount Rainier National Park, and then the tallest in America that you can climb is Denali, which is right here, all the way out in Alaska. And that is a 8,000 meter peak. Very exciting. A very different set of gear than climbing and camping all around this area. Let's keep heading north. Let's see. So South Dakota has 2 parks, the Wind Caves and the Badlands National Park. I don't know much about them. And then Theodore Roosevelt National Park, one of the older national parks, I believe, to have been created up in North Dakota. And then in Wyoming, the classic Yellowstone, everybody's favorite. And right next to it, the Grand Tetons. So that's a fun trip. You can cover 2 national parks in one go, and the Grand Teton should have some pretty tall mountains in it as well. Grand Teton Peak, 13,000. Mount Moran, 12,000. Alright, you can get after some elevation climbing out here. Very nice. Way, way up in the corner of Montana, Glacier National Park. Right at the edge of the Rockies. Almost bleeding into Canada. And then in Washington State, we have the North Cascades, Olympic National Park, and Mount Rainier. This would be a fun one to kind of chain a few parks together. You were all gonna do them all in one visit. And then down to Oregon. We're following the Oregon Trail, except not. It's Crater Lake National Park. You can go see the massive crater that was left by a meteorite impact. That would be something. Man, I saw a really interesting YouTube video the other day that was about, like, meteorite impacts. Just all of the globally recorded meteorite impacts that are, you know, of significant size like this. And it's pretty impressive how well some of them remained and some of how old some of the really big ones are, that they've really permanently changed the landscape in a way that you never thought about. Nevada, with one park in the Great Basin. Certainly on the list. I'm not as interested in the trip to Vegas. I've never been there, but if I went to Nevada, I would definitely have to go see the Great Basin. And California, the land of, I think, the most parks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes, there's 8 in Alaska, 9 in California. How lucky are they? We've got Redwood National Park to go see the redwood forests. Oh, now, yeah, I bet that's super impressive. I'm used to East Texas piney woods, which is tall trees, but certainly not as tall as those as the red ones that they'd have out here. What park is this? My goodness, they won't let me select it. Oh, Lassen Volcanic National Park. This is one that I really hadn't heard of until I kind of got my national parks passport and spent some time. Well, yeah, until I got my national parks passport. But I guess it's a little volcano cluster. Very interesting. Yosemite National Park. Very famous. Very large. This is definitely one of the bigger ones as far as total acreage and miles of hiking that can be done around here. Then we've got the sister parks of... you're killing me, Smalls. Kings Canyon and Sequoia. I'd heard of Sequoia. I had not heard of Kings Kingdom. We've also got some taller mountains in here. There's a 13er. Said get after some climbing in this area. And then Death Valley National Park that everyone recognizes. And it's amazing how one side of the mountains to the other side of the mountains makes such a big difference. And, you know, lush greenery versus total desert. Let's pull up the satellite imagery for this. I want to see. More Big Bendish terrain, but still a pretty clearly defined tree area, and then as soon as you start moving east, total desert. And yeah, absolutely nothing out here, no vegetation. But very beautiful. Definitely on the list of places to go see. What do we have over here? Pinnacles National Park. I do not know anything about Pinnacles National Park. Let's take a look at some of the pictures of their trail. What was High Peach Trail? Oh, very nice. That looks very beautiful. That is some impressive nature that's out there. And then, what have we got? Channel Islands National Parks, one of the few island national parks to go see. Joshua Tree, another one that I've heard of and not seen on. And we covered the Arizona National Park, so that's everything west of Texas, not including California. Eastward, Arkansas has the Hot Springs. Let's see, Hot Springs National Park. Working your way north, the Gateway Arch, the only, national park that isn't really a park, but it's more of a monument. But it still classifies as a park, kind of an interesting thing. Indiana Dunes, this is our third Dunes National Park. Interesting. Never been up in the Northeast Territory. And Rust Belt Voyageurs National Park in Minnesota. And El Royale in Wisconsin. Way out on Lake Superior. Cuyahoga Valley National Park in Ohio. We'll work our way back down to Kentucky and the Mammoth Caves. I'm always interested in seeing some mammoths. My favorite is to go find dinosaur stuff that's in the national parks. That's always like the thing that I'm hunting after the most. Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Definitely get after some climbs there. Congaree. And South Carolina. And the New River Gorge. And West Virginia. And Shenandoah National Park in North Virginia. Or Northern Virginia. I remember I heard a sunny thing the other day where a friend of mine was having to go work in West Virginia. And I was like, oh, you're going to West Virginia? And he's like, no, I'm going to Western Virginia, which is actually can be more west than regular Virginia if you're out here in Persimmon Gap and that kind of area. I'm in Western Virginia, not West Virginia. Kind of funny. And way up here in Maine, Acadia National Park. Probably one of, well, I guess it's not as far away from central US as the Washington National Parks, but it's pretty out there. It's kind of tough because you want to go out there and see all of these parks, but it's so spread out. There's no way to kind of like combine parks in one trip unless you're, traveling in like some straight line across them. It's more difficult to kind of justify than trips to all of the Western National Parks where they're very clustered together. And then way down here in Florida with your three, we've got Biscayne National Park, the Bay of Biscayne, the Everglades, and then Dry Tortuga, way out at the end of the Keys. Little tiny island, Dry Tortuga. You'll have to sail or fly out there. Cause the bridge stops at Key West. Yeah, the bridge stops at Key West. So you'll have to put in a little extra effort to get all the way out there. And we talked about the island national parks. Let's go up to Alaska. There are 8 parks in Alaska. And a lot to do. Glacier Bay National Park on that little Alaskan sliver that touches Canada, but we decided to cut off, you know, half of their access to the Pacific Ocean, which is very funny. This, I think I would really enjoy trying to, like, have a sailing trip through. I mean, definitely climbing some of these areas, but these aren't places that are super drivable, as far as I know. But I think sailing around these places would offer some unbelievably gorgeous sights. Oh, that would be pretty out there. That would be super pretty out there. And then here we have Wrangell and St. Elias National Park. A couple of big mountains out here. To be climbed. And a very large glacier. I think St. Elias is the mountain. Let's see what our elevation looks like around these places. That's some 5,000 feet ranges. Here's some mountains. Well, yeah, here's a 16er. University Peak 14er. Aleo Peak 14er. Mount Bonna 16,000 feet. Mount Churchill 15,000 feet. That's some big ones. Getting into some fun territory there. Then we've got the Kenai Fjords. I think you can drive to this one. But another park that I think would be a more fun trip to kind of sail to and hike. Like, I think a trip could be kind of like Glacier Bay, Kenai Fjords, and then Katmai and Lake Clark could be one whole, you know, kind of sailing trip. I bet Alaskan cruises do this. You know, I'm saying that, like, I bet if you prick an Alaskan cruise, they might get you around some of these parks. I certainly don't know anything about them other than what they're called and where they are for this one. Katmai, and then here's Lake Clark. I wonder where the actual lake is. This is Lake Clark. Wow, that's a big one. Sure. And then here's Denali National Park. More towards the center. Very pretty out here. Let's see. Is there something we can click on that has pictures? Oh, wow. Look at that. Very nice. Looks like there's a little townish around there. Okay, so the visitor center's all the way out here. Very nice. Very nice. Where's the actual Mount Denali itself? Or Mount Healy? It's called something else, isn't it? Oh, I vaguely remember that. Yeah. I will have more information on that later. I know I look very silly talking about national parks and I don't know anything about them, but trying to give a beginner's view of at least where everything is. This, the Kobuk Valley National Park. And Gates of the Arctic. So this is all part of the Brooks Range. And there's another big time outdoor YouTuber, Darwin on the Trail, that's doing a big Gates of the Arctic float trip. Oh, I'll be very interested in seeing that video when it comes out. And there's your northernmost national parks. And that's everything. That's everything that's out here. Lots of fun stuff to go see. Lots of cool things coming up that I'm super interested in being able to check out. Now, let's go back to Texas. And let's pull up this is some of the Texas historical sites, and then the state parks. And yeah, I think that's all we'll show. On this one, I've been to a lot of Texas state parks, but there is a lot to go through. So this is another kind of passport book that I'm trying to fill out. As well as I want to go to all the national sites that are in Texas. There's a few national sites that we have. The Waco Mammoth National Monument, way up here in the Panhandle, Lake Meredith, and the Alabates Flint Quarries. National Recreational Site and National Monument. Of course, Big Bend in the Guadalupe Mountains. And then Fort Davis National Historic Site. One of the old U.S. cavalry forts that was used to help fight against the Indians that were in the area. Blackwell School National Historical Site, which I didn't think was all the way out here in Marfa. I have been to Marfa before, seen the Marfa Lights. I didn't know there was a historical site there. And then the Chamizal National Monument in El Paso, which is a historic marker. Lake Amistad National Recreational Area over in Del Rio. And now we're headed south towards the valley, the San Antonio Missions in San Antonio, Texas. There are 3 different missions to go see. I had a friend just go do this recently. There's 3 different missions. There's a bridge. And I think that's it. Or there might be one more thing. But I know there's 3 different missions and like a bridge / aqueduct. And the Alamo is not part of these missions. It is a part of these missions, but it's not a part of the National Historic Park. The Alamo is its own thing. And then we have North Padre National Seashore, which is somewhere I have visited before and will be going back to visiting soon. This summer. That's exciting. The stars out there were unbelievably beautiful. And then way down in the valley we have Palo Alto Battlefield and Browns Hill. And one more for East Texas, a Big Thicket National Park, or preserve national preserves, sorry. And the national preserve is big. It covers a lot of different areas. Like this is Nat Big Thicket, this is Big Thicket, this is Big Thicket way out over here. And it kind of runs up and down East Texas, all over, but this marker is where the visitor center is that you can get the stamp from. And it is next to some tiny town that I don't remember. Village Mills. It's next to Village Mills. Wildwood. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce the... There you go. So that's all the Texas national, like all the Texas sites that are in the National Parks Passport. And all the purple and green that's in here are the state parks and the state historic sites. I've been to... So the green ones are the sites that I've been to, and the purple ones are the sites that I haven't been to. And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. I guess we can start at the south tip here. Resaca de la Palma, State Park Estero y Llano Grande, State Park Winston and Rio Grande Valley State Park, and Falcon State Park. And these four are very big migratory bird viewing sites. So if you ever are a big birding fan and you want to see a whole bunch of migratory species, these parks are the parks to go visit in the spring and in the fall when all the birds are traveling. There's a lot of bird viewing that that passes through those parks. In Nuevo Laredo, we have Lake Casablanca International State Park. So this state park is a shared territory between the US and Mexico, and I don't know all of the details of it, but it is the only international state park that we have, which is interesting. On top of North Padre Island is Mustang Island State Park, part of that part of the whole Padre Island chain. So if you go to the North Padre National Seashore, you can just take a hop, skip, and a jump right over at Mustang Island. And another island state park that is on top of Aransas and Rockport, that area, is Goose Island. I have visited Goose Island before, and it was definitely a nice trip. They have a big tree out there that you can go see. What was fun to do is to go see Goose Island, so you'll camp around here either on the island or in the mainland section of the park, and there's lots of fishing, boating, water recreation. Over here is the big tree that you can see. It's this gigantic, really, really old oak tree. That's fun to go visit. And then you'll drive up and around here, and you'll go see the Aransas National Wildlife Refuge, which is really nice. And they have a hiking area where you can climb up. Well, no one took any pictures of it, but you can go see these really cool towers that look over the bay and the wildlife refuge. A lot of birding information. That's a fun. If you go to Goose Island, this is like a fun kind of do all three of those things in one go. What else do we have? Lake Corpus Christi State Park. Texas has a lot of lake state parks. I don't know if that's the same as other states' state parks, but Texas has a lot of lake state parks. Choke Canyon, some of the best bass fishing, except for Falcon Lake. And Choke Canyon, I believe there are 2 stamps that go with Choke Canyon. There's an upper stamp and a lower stamp. There's, the South Shore unit and the Callahan unit or something like that, but it's in the Texas State Parks passport. It's a way that you can get 2 different stamps in one visit. And then what do we have here? So these are national. This is a national historic site, the Fan Battleground, and Presidio La Bahia. And then Goliad State Park is right next to it. This is all kind of one thing to do at once. So Goliad State Park is part of the state park system, and it's the Goliad mission. And then Presidio La Bahia, there's another mission that was built. And there's a historic home that's next to it for the guy that's Mr. Cinco de Mayo. And now I can't remember. Let me look up the name of the guy. Real quick. Cinco. I'm a terrible typer guy. But general. What was the general's name? Battle of Pueblo. Holiday in the U.S. Holiday elsewhere. Just want the name of the guy. General Ignacio Zaragoza. So his birthplace is right here in Goliad, in this building right there. And then this structure right here is the Presidio. And then he has a statue right over here. And so it's cool because you get to read about the Cinco de Mayo guy and what he did. Presidio de la Bahia was a place where battles took place during the Texas Revolution. And then there's a monument out here that's the Fannin burial ground, where the Fannin battleground took place out here. They left, Fannin's men left Presidio de la Bahia. They marched all the way out here trying to join Sam Houston and got caught in a battle. They all died. I'm simplifying the story, but they were left out there. And later, one of the Texas generals found the battleground and all the bodies, and he came and he brought them back to Goliad and he buried them here. So now you can go see, the burial site, the Presidio, the battleground, way out here, and there's a monument that's built for the battleground. Those are all Texas historical sites. And then the Goliad mission, which the Presidio was built to protect the mission, and the city, because the Presidio sits on the elevated ground. It's high ground here, low ground here, high ground here. The Presidio is built to kind of protect the town and the mission is Goliad State Park. I know of this because I visited very recently. We did Choke Canyon, we did the San Antonio missions. What is this? Casa Navarro. This is another Texas Revolutionary site. I haven't visited, so I don't remember why it's significant. I don't have my books in front of me. I'll have to go back. We'll do a video another time where I have like the actual books in front and talk about why these places are important. There's a lot to do around San Antonio. If you want to go visit parks, Government Canyon, I have visited before. This is Government Canyon State Park, and they have dinosaur footprints. And I think I'll do other videos that talk about the trips that I've been on so far and what I've hiked and things like that. Guadalupe State Parks, Guadalupe River and Honey Creek State Park and State Natural Area. It is a nice little 2-for-1 to go visit on your way down to San Antonio. And then in Blanco State Park and the old tunnel. Blanco State Park I haven't been to before. Isn't this the boat? Like it's just a boat launch that covers the river? Yeah, it's just that park that covers a natural area along the river, so it's an easy like drive by. You don't have to do very much to go visit it. Old tunnel and Devil's Sinkhole. These two parks are the same kind of park in the sense that you're there to go see bats. You want to go, so Devil's Sinkhole is a natural sinkhole that a crap ton of bats live in, and Old Tunnel is an old rail tunnel, is an old mine that a bunch of bats live in. And so these parks there's no like hiking around the parks. You have to set up certain visit times. You can just go in the morning or the afternoons to go watch bats fly out. But there's a lot of bats that live there, so it's impressive. I have a trip like that where I will go see the Devil's Sinkhole. That is it down the road. There's 3 kind of hill country parks that everybody likes to go see. This is the Hill Country State Natural Area, which is one of the larger state parks and has some of the most mileage as far as hiking goes. I have not been there before, but I have been to Lost Maples. I didn't go in the fall. That was a late spring, early summer trip, so I haven't gone to see the maple wreath chasing, but still very pretty out here. They have a thing called Monkey Rock, which is a natural rock formation that, I kid you not, looked exactly like a monkey's head. It is quite silly. Let's see if they have... I know that's my track. So that was the actual hike that I did. Monkey Rock is right here. Do they... Okay. Do they have pictures of Monkey Rock on the east trail? I don't know. There's a nice shot of when leaves start changing. So I'll have to come back in the fall to see the actual maple leaves start changing. No pictures of Monkey Rock. Interesting. But, so, I do remember some of the history from the Visitor's Center, why there are maple trees here. And way back millions of years ago, there used to be maple trees all over. It was part of the time period when the ice caps sat way lower, and all of Canada used to be a giant glacier and things like that. And one of the things that was a result of that was that maple trees used to stretch all the way down into Texas. And as we moved out of the Ice Age and the climate warmed up, and the glacier retreated, most of the exposed areas that those maple trees used to live in were not cool and wet enough for them to maintain, except for a couple of these pockets. And so Lost Maples sits in this little valley area that has a spring-fed water source that still holds the right climate for those maple trees to stay alive. And there's a couple of little pockets of that in Texas and New Mexico as you kind of work your way north. There's little bits and pieces of these lost maples that were left behind what used to be very large maple forests a long time ago. So that's a neat thing to go see. And also in the hill country, I can't believe I have to click on this because I should remember it. Garner State Park along the Frio River. This was really nice. I got to see a very lovely sunrise called Old Baldy, which is their little mountain that they have here. How high was that? Like almost 19, it was like 18 and a half. Not 18,000, but 1,800 and a half. See, not as brutal of a climb as some of the other places we just looked at recently. But this is a fun one. You get to go float the Frio. They have a dance hall out here. I was not there when the dance hall was active. I caught it like in the in-between parts, but during the summer, you can come down to Gomez State Park and they have a place that you can dance at. Which is cool, We're kind of leaving Central Texas in the hill country now. Kickapoo Cavern. We talked about the Devil's Sinkhole. South Llano River State Park is a place that I will be going to later. That's an upcoming planned trip that I have. And, yeah, that's gonna, I don't know, there's a lot of hiking here and a lot of river stuff. I'll be here for a long weekend, so I'll be able to try out quite a few of those things. What do we have here? Kickapoo Cavern, I think, has some more hiking opportunities. It's not just a bat place, but there are bat caves there. I'm jumping around a lot. This is the Devil's River. So the Devil's River has two different parks. There's kind of a north park and a south park. They're all connected along the same river, and then the river comes to Amistad. I don't think there's two stats for it. Well, I'm not sure. I'll have to look at my book to see if there's two stats for it or not. But, that's something that I think could be fun. There's something about, I don't think you can do the continuous river trip or not. There's something about, like, if you tried to do a raft trip down it, all of this in between is private land, and I don't think you can camp on it. So you have to plan the river trip in a way, if you're going from park to park, that you can't stop to camp on any of this private land. Maybe you're able to do it in one day, I'm not sure. But I think the more popular thing is to log from the South Park, Illit Amistad. And similarly, this is Seminole Canyon? Seminole something. Yeah, Seminole Canyon State Park. Another one where you can go down. This is just a Rio Grande float trip at Amistad. But cool. This is a little, pocket where you can visit a lot of stuff in one go. It would be hard to also do Kickapoo. Like, you would either have to do Devil's River Kickapoo Cavern or Devil's River Seminole Canyon. It would be hard to do both in one trip, because this distance is a couple of hours. So you'd have to have a lot of time available trying to experience all of those parks. This is Devil's Sinkhole, this is South Llano. Okay, what didn't we kind of cover in this here? Oh, LBJ's National Historic Site and State Park. So I skipped over this when we were talking about national sites for Texas. This is his ranch. That's his whole ranch territory and the airstrip. And I actually have visited here a long time ago, but I didn't have my national park passport back then, so I don't have the stamp from it. That's why it's not marked white. But they have the state park and the historic park there to go visit, and that is pretty cool. I remember liking it quite a bit. Pedernales River State Park. Pedernales Falls. I've done some big hiking right here and gone to see the river. It's very cool. This is not a river that you can float. It runs pretty dry, and then it flash floods occasionally. So it's not the kind of river that you would take a slow trip on. But it is fun to go see, and walk around, the rocks before they're all, underwater. We talked. That's Blanco. Yeah, that's Blanco. Over here, what do we have here? Palmetto and Lockhart State Fork. I have visited these on a recent trip. So Palmetto is a bush plant that you don't see a ton except in these really humid and lowland, very very high access to water parks. But it goes along the San Marcos River. It's got a little lake where the river used to branch around this lake, and over time flooding filled it in, and so now it's an independent lake, which is kind of neat. But yeah, the river's a nice float. It had some really cool hiking around it, and it had some old mud boils. They weren't active anymore, but you can still go through the depressions where the mud boils used to be, and it's where water from underground would push up the mud through the surface, and you would just see mud bubbling with the water underneath it, and that's something that you could tap in as a spring. Lockhart State Park is a golf course. It's a golf course that was built by the Civilian Conservation Corps. And it is the only golf course state park in Texas, and I'm pretty sure. Little 9-hole course, very nice. That's some good hiking. And some of the older CCC things that you can go see were built. In Austin, we have McKinney Falls State Park. This is a neat little one, because it's right in the middle of the city, along Onion Creek. But it's significant because there used to be an old mill, an old flour mill that was out here, and you can go see the remnants of the dam. They had dammed up the creek at one point in time, and they had the big flour mill and the house that homestead that everyone lived in. And this is a very popular place to go hike and swim. But if you live in Austin, it's a state park that's right in your back door. And then up here, this is a historic site. This is the French legation. This used to be when Texas was an independent country as the Republic of Texas. This is where the French embassy building was. And you can go visit it and go see the old French embassy to the Republic of Texas. And I heard that the local Texans were not the biggest fan of the French capital there, which is always kind of funny. Heading east of Austin, we have Bastrop State Park and Busher State Park. Busher State Park borders the Lake Bastrop. I've been, for the amount of times that I've been to Bastrop, I actually haven't been to the Bastrop State Park before, so I don't know too much about it, but I can tell you. And then Busher kind of follows the lake, and then it has a really big hiking trail that branches off from the lake. Again, there are a lot of lake state parks. Monument Hill, there's a historic site. I don't remember what's important about it. I think there was a really big battle with Native Americans out here. And that's all I can think of. I have not visited it before. But if you're coming on the way from Austin to Houston, Monument Hill is something that you'll pass by. Man, do I want to go all the way into the East Texas State Parks right now? Well, what have we've covered a lot, so we've kind of covered all of the southern state parks. Let's touch up right here, and then we'll head towards Houston. Longhorn Cavern and Inks Lake. Some hiking, but mostly a park about the lake. But you kind of visit Inks Lake and Longhorn Caverns in one go. I have never been to Longhorn Caverns, but I bet it looks pretty interesting. Do we have any pictures? Yeah, I don't know what's posted. Any pictures of Longhorn Cavern? Maybe as I visit these places, I have to apply some imagery here. And then way up here, Colorado Bend State Park on the Colorado River. This has a lot of really cool hiking. It has a really big bat cave. You could actually do some guided spelunking in it, which is really fun. And it has a little famous area way down here. It has a little hot springs falls, not hot springs, but natural spring falls swimming area down here that's on if you don't swim in the river with a boat. And the Gorman Falls is really, that's kind of the major site of Colorado Bend. It's a natural falls that rise almost all the time. It's just covered in these ferns and natural growth, and looks absolutely beautiful while it's rotting. Bit of a steep hike to get in there, but class, I guess that'd be class 3 or class 4 terrain. You have to follow these guided rails to get down to it. Let's head east. So we covered Blanco, Busher, there's Monument Hill, Somerville State Park, and a trailway. I don't really know what defines a trailway. I think it's like it's whatever's these like long continuous trails. And I don't know if there used to be like historic trailways or something like that. But there's something, yeah, like this is the trailway. I don't know what trailway gets classified. But we'll see a couple of state parks that have these trailways with they're big like about to start hitting a lot of lakes. That's Monument Hill. Excuse me. Here is Washington on the Brazos. There are 3 different stamps that you get from here that are in the national, the Texas Historical Sites Park. So there's the Washington on the Brazos stamp building where they signed the Texas, they wrote the Texas Republic Constitution, and then the Star of the Republic is a really cool museum that has a bunch of Texas historical artifacts and information in it. And there's the museum, Washington on the Brazos building, somewhere around here. I've gone to visit it a long time ago. I'll have to find the actual. I don't know where the building is. And this is the homestead, the Barrington Plantation, which owned the building that the first, Texas Congress wrote everything up in. So you get 3 of those stamps in one go. I don't know if this is true for the Texas State Parks passport or the National Parks passport, but for the Texas Historical Sites passport, if you finish them all, you get something. I don't know if it's like a t-shirt, or a koozie, or maybe a really big cowboy hat. That'd be kind of cool. Oh, I wonder if they do a belt buckle. Oh, belt buckle would be so cool. That would be a very Texas thing to do. Give out a belt buckle if you finish the passport. That's on the list, so I'm gonna let you know whenever I visit all these sites what comes out of it. We are headed to Houston. Houston means that I'm one day closer to you. Oh, Stephen F. State Park. and San Felipe de Austin. So San Felipe de Austin is a shark fight. I don't know why it's important, but it's important. And Stephen F. Austin's over here. Well, for those of you not from Texas or not super familiar with Texas history, Stephen F. Austin was one of the first people to start giving land grants to settle Texas, and he sold land at 10 cents an acre. Can you imagine buying land in Texas at 10 cents an acre? Can you imagine buying land anywhere at 10 cents an acre? What a time that would have been. Now it really pays to be first somewhere. Unfortunately, there's nowhere left that you can go be first to. Let's see, there's really nothing in between Goose Island and as we work our way towards Galveston. So on Galveston Island, we have Galveston Island State Park. I went to Galveston Island a long time ago, but I have not been to Galveston Island State Park, so whenever I do a Houston trip, that's gonna be the place to visit on the list. Here's another one of those national wildlife refuges. I have a picture. Like, I know where all the wildlife refuges are. I don't think I have them marked in a folder. Now, that's something to do maybe later. The majority of them are along the coast. And I don't know if they all have lake visitors, so that's Varner Hog Plantation is another historical site to go visit. Some old Texas plantation. And I'm sure they're like one of the first people that ever got out there. And then a little bit north of that, we have the Brazos Bend State Park. This is supposed to be pretty beautiful. Oh, here. So, one of the things about why it's called the Brazos Bend is because you have the river that cuts through the park, and then you have these areas where the creek used to make these bends, and they eroded away. And this is kind of the more significant one, is that this bend is not connected to the original creek, but now the creek flows right past it, and the bends become this isolated little semi-lake, which is interesting. But this is all, a big piece of the Brazos River. And if you follow the Brazos River, you'll hit Washington on the Brazos way up here. Isn't that fun? In West Houston, we have Sheldon Lake. Oh, they have an observation tower. That's kind of cool. And just a really big reservoir lake. So, there you go. Sometimes state parks are there just because the state needed to build something. The San Jacinto Monument, probably the most significant of the Texas historical sites. The San Jacinto Monument marking the location of the Battle of San Jacinto, where the Texas Revolutionary Army and General Sam Houston fought against the Mexican Imperial Army. Yeah, General Santa Anna, General and Presidente Santa Anna, and he was captured. The Texans won the battle, and with the capture of the president, the Texas Revolution was won, and thus began the creation of the Republic of Texas. I did not know this. The battleship Texas is also here. I don't know if you guys watched this, like 2 or 3 years ago. They moved the battleship for repairs, and it was a impressive operation. The battleship didn't run under its own power. They towed it the whole way, but it was still a pretty cool sight to see it being brought all the way down the coast, and I don't remember where they took it to get it fixed, but it was quite the event. So I've never seen the battleship Texas. I have seen the Lexington, the USS Lexington aircraft carrier down in Corpus Christi, but I've never toured a battleship before. So if I ever go there, that's gonna be something to do on the list. Way, way, way down at the southwest tip of Texas and almost the Louisiana border, we got Sea Rim State Park. Sea Rim State Park. A bunch of different lakes and swamp and marshland and brackish water and a lot of fun fishing. I bet you can catch all kinds of fun stuff, but you bet what you can't do is you can't launch from here and drive your boat over to Louisiana and get yourself a Louisiana limit and bring it back to Texas. No, 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 no. The game wardens will not be happy about that. Texas requires a bit bigger spies on their fish than Louisiana does. And just because you catch fish in Louisiana, if you bring it back, what matters is where you launched. Wherever you launched from is where the rules apply. If you launched in Texas and you go to Louisiana, the Texas rules apply. If you launch from Louisiana and you fish in Texas, and the Louisiana rules apply. So that is why that matters. Up by Lumberton, we have Village Creek State Park. Looks like we're following a nice little river here, and it has a big washout area. This is interesting. I wonder, what does this look like on satellite? Wow, this is a big washout. What's the elevation? It's flat, but running towards the creek. Interesting. I wonder why this is a state park. A lot of these places are state parks just because the CCC was told to go build something there. You will find that about a lot of things. The CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps, for any non-Americans or people maybe lightly unfamiliar with American history, there's a national labor force that was done during FDR's presidency as part of the New Deal, where Americans were basically given government labor jobs to help pull them out of the Depression. And they were told to go out, build a lot of civil structures. So they made a lot of roads, they made a lot of dams, they made a lot of bridges, community gathering areas, pools, golf courses, and natural areas. And it was a way for those people to be able to get work when the businesses weren't hiring. And the Civilian Conservation Corps ended at the start of World War II. Is that everybody had to go serve. Oh, here we have Lake Livingston State Park on big old Lake Livingston. I do not know much about it. Here's, again, more of that big thicket area. Most of the lake state parks are gonna be in East Texas. Martin Dice is actually supposed to have some pretty good fishing. Ever been to Martin Dice, but look at that. That's really interesting. All these little mitigation areas that have been built. Interesting. I bet there's some stories about that. And the Big Tree Swamp. We are now headed a little bit north, What do we have? That's the Washington on the Brazos that we were. Fanthorpe Inn is another Texas Revolution site that I don't know anything about, but it's right there. Good. In Anderson. Huntsville State Park in Huntsville, Texas. This is a state park that was built by prisoners. Huntsville is the kind of prison capital of Texas. All of the state prisons, the penitentiaries, are in Huntsville. And one of the things that they do is that they worked on making some of it at the Huntsville State Park. So, interesting little history. There's Lake Livingston, we already talked about that. There's Big Thicket. There's Martindise. Alright, we're still working our way north. Fort Boggy. There's a couple of Fort State Parks. A couple of Fort State Parks that were built along Texas as part of the Texas's management of the trying to protect people from the Indian raids that were going on. Mission Tejas State Park, I think, is one of the oldest missions in Texas. I might have just made that up totally. I'm not entirely wrong though, because Nacogdoches is right here, and Nacogdoches is the oldest town in Texas. Nacogdoches was actually built by the Native Americans first, and then resettled by Native Texans, and it's a sister town in Louisiana, Nacogdoches. And the story is that the Native American chief that lived right here on the Sabine River told his two sons, you're gonna walk, 100 miles west, you're gonna walk 100 miles east, and you're both going to establish towns. And Nacogdoches, Nacogdoches were born from that. So that's an interesting little piece of history. And as we keep working our way up, we have Martin Creek, Tyler State Park, Caddo Lake, I have sished that before, Dangerfield, Atlanta State Park, Lake Bob Sandlin, Trooper Lake, Lake Tawakoni, and Purtis Creek, and that's kind of your northeast corner of Texas. Bonham State Park's a lot of lakes out here that I'm not really interested in zooming into a bunch right now, if you can't tell. Now we're coming up towards the Dallas territory, right up next to Oklahoma, Eisenhower State Park. On, what lake is this? Lake Texoma. I have been to Lake Texoma, but I have not been to Eisenhower State Park. I think we stayed down here-ish. Ray Roberts Lake. And so this is one of those trailways. This, like, continuous trail that kind of, connects two different things. I think that's when the trailway is. I think. I don't entirely know. Cedar Hill State Park in South Dallas. Did we talk about that one? Curtis Creek. Yes. Lee Brown State Park, Lake Whitney, Meridian State Park, Fort Tucker we already talked about. Without jumping over, Mother Naft State Park I've driven past, I've been to before. That one was closed for a hot minute because the lake flooded really, really badly and took out a lot of the structures that were in Mother Naft State Park, and so they were closed for quite a while, and I think they just now reopened. And this is what I was skipping over here in Waco, the Waco Mammoth Museum National Monument. I missed this during hang on, let me just take a sip of water. I missed this during the original, when I was talking about all the national sites. I forgot about the Waco Mammoth, but they found some gigantic mammoth skeleton out here that you can go see, and I have not been there, but I want to go see it because I love staring at old bones. And speaking of old bones, Dinosaur Valley State Park. Oh man, that place was cool. That place was so cool. So what is significant about Dinosaur Valley State Park is that along the Paluxy River, a massive amount of dinosaur tracks have been discovered. Like an unbelievable amount of dinosaur tracks have been discovered. And let me show you. Oh, there are all the track sites. And there are so many dinosaur footprints. They're all along the river and you can go stand in them. And it's so cool to go stand inside of the footprint of a giant sauropod that was there like, whatever, 65 million years ago. It's so awesome. The river, we went in the winter and the river was so cold, but you have to go stand in it because it's just the coolest thing ever. If you want to go see dinosaur stuff in Texas, go to Dinosaur Valley State Park. It doesn't get much more fun than that. There just a massive amount of sauropod and theropod tracks that you can go see. Let's see. That's Colorado Bend. Okay. And then, okay, so now we're headed west of Dallas. A few more, Lake Brownwood, Abilene State Park. I might be going past some of these on the way to another state park, the Palo Pinto Mountains. Possum Kingdom, because isn't that just the fun name, Possum Kingdom? Like Mineral Whales and Trailway, Fort Richardson, and Lost Creek. There's a lot there. It's a massive name. Lake Arrowhead. This is Copper Breaks. That's Abilene. And we're kind of working through West Central Texas, San Angelo State Park, Lake Colorado City, Big Spring, the Monahans Sandhills, which is kind of the state park sandhill equivalent as you're headed out towards West Texas and Midland, Odessa area. If you're not from Texas, this is all low country. Midland and Odessa is big oil. All about oil out there. And north towards the Panhandle. This is a place I will be visiting. Coming up fairly soon, the Caprock Canyons and the Paladuro Canyon State Park. They're all part of one canyon system. Paladuro has the north end, and Caprock has the south end. And it is supposed to be just some unbelievably gorgeous canyon hiking out there that I am very excited to go see. And additionally, along the trip, I'll go see Lake Meredith and the Alabate Swamp Quarries. If you want to go hit a bunch of parks in one go, I think this is a pretty good trip. It's a long drive, though. You're about an hour from Central Texas. It's a little bit closer. It's like an hour closer than, Paladuro is an hour closer than Big Bend. But it's a long, Texas is a long ways away. Any direction you go, it takes a day to cross. For sure. This is the Sandhills. Balmoral. There's a gigantic swimming hole. I have not been there before, but this is like a it's just a really big natural spring and swimming hole that you can go see and go swim in. And then, of course, connected to the Fort Davis natural, the historic site is Davis Mountain State Park and the Indian Lodge. The Indian Lodge is not in the state park stamp book, but it is on the state park website, so that's why that's included in here. I kind of made the map based off of the website. But the Davis Mountains is a very fun hike to go do. You get a lot covered in there. I did stay at the Indian Lodge once when I was little, and they had giant pancakes there that were absolutely delicious. And then all the way down here next to Big Bend National Park, we have Big Bend Ranch State Park, the largest state park in Texas. If you didn't get enough of Big Bend, you can always come back to the Big Bend State Park at Fort Wheaton Historical Site and the Barton Warnock Visitor Center are things that are, again, on the website and listed as independent things from the state park, but they do not have their own stamps. But if you go to Big Bend Ranch State Park, I would just put those two stamps on the same sheet as the Big Bend Ranch one. And way, way, way out west, we've got three more things I can totally count. The Waco tanks. If you want to get onto some fun rock climbing, the Waco tanks are supposed to be really good for that. And just a little natural formation of rock climbing that is supposed to be pretty fun to get involved in. And then way out in El Paso, we have the Franklin Mountains, the westernmost tip of the Rocky Mountain Range, shown the Franklin Mountains State Park. And down here is the Weiler Aerial Tramway. This is something that was listed on the website. It's a tramway that doesn't run anymore that would carry you to the top of the mountains and back. So if you wanted to just take a little day trip, you didn't feel like hiking the Franklin Mountains, we'll take a tram to the top of the mountains. You know, it's one of those big cable car things. You can sit up and sit and go ride. Oh. And there you go. That is all of the state and national things, mostly, that you can do in Texas. Doesn't that sound fun? Doesn't it make you want to go? It makes me want to go. Alright, I think that's enough for today. I think next time we'll kind of tell you about some other things that I have ideas for and trips to come in the future and different ways to get off my sofa. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.